Hello again, fellow educators. Mike Huestis. This is the lesson plan for lesson number 3 in the primary edition of Developing the Percussionist Musician. Lesson 3 is just an introduction to reading notation for the snare drum. And we're going to just start with quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes, along with quarter rest, half rest, and whole rest. I would say that the most important aspect of this for percussionists is to learn to count out loud. Now, regardless of how I've taught my wind students to count, percussionists count every single beat, even if they don't play it. So even on rests, we want them to say the number out loud, okay? So they're striking, and even when they're not striking, that they're accountable to every single beat that's in the measure. And the reason that I'm fairly adamant about this is it teaches them the concept of pulse in addition to the concept of rhythm. Now, we're not explicit about that idea, at least at the beginning, but many times I see errors in bands occurring because students don't understand the difference between those two concepts. They're obviously, related, but that pulse remains constant and is never changing. That the ictus for the conductor's baton or the metronome or whatever the case, the foot tap. The externalization of the pulse stays consistent, and rhythm is what is performed on top of the pulse. So by making them count every single count, no matter what, even if they don't play it, even if it's a whole note rest, that they count out loud all 4 of those beats so that they know exactly where they are at all times. So the idea of getting them to understand those two concepts is the most important aspect, in my opinion, of this lesson. They are going to encounter 4/4, 2/4, 3/4, 5/4, and 6/4 right off the bat. I know that is maybe not the way that your normal band method book works, but we want to dispel the myth that those different numbers are anything other than counting. If you introduce it right away and you don't act like it's a big deal, then it won't be a big deal. Kids won't be afraid of 5/4 once we start it right off the bat. It's not a big deal. And then when we change it to 5/8 later on in the book, then it's something that they've encountered before, and it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. So we're just introducing it early so that there's not a fear of that. The essential question is, can kids count and play quarter, half, and whole? So that is the bottom line premise of the lesson. So in terms of the ultimate goal, can they count and can they demonstrate a knowledge of different rests in those different time signatures? Okay. If you need to review, if you need to slow down, or if you need to, go back in the video and maybe replay some of the exercises, feel free to do so. There are times where doing the snare drum stuff, maybe we go a little bit quicker. So if the students are getting it and they're not having a big problem with it and they seem to be doing well, then go ahead and blaze through this lesson. And I will add some supplemental material to the end of the last video. So I'll just post it on the actual video screen. So if you want to just press pause, you can do some additional sight reading, or maybe do some other things that challenge the kids, that particularly if they're excelling. The other thing to maybe consider when doing these first easier snare drum things, if the kids are getting it and they seem to be doing pretty well, introduce an auxiliary instrument. Have them play a really, really easy one on the concert bass drum, or play it on the tambourine, or maybe a triangle or something like that. Get them used to those instruments and make it feel like kind of a reward. So even playing on a wood block, which essentially just putting a wood block on a trap table and playing it exactly like you're playing a snare drum with some rubber mallets. So that's a fun way to keep the kids engaged, keep them counting, but feel like they're doing something new and interesting. So hopefully you can have some fun with that. And if you have any questions, post them on the Percussion Solutions for Band Directors Facebook group, and we'll help you out. But hopefully this is a lot of fun, and just get those kids counting out loud. Just repeat that as often as humanly possible. We will do full strokes for the entire lesson. That way there's no real variables in that way, so the stick is always going to start up and end up. And the reason that we do that is because the vast majority of the instruments that we play, timpani, mallets, all the mallets for that matter, use full strokes. Snare drum later on, you will need more dexterity playing down and up strokes. But the vast majority of what we play, particularly in concert percussion, orchestral percussion, keyboard percussion, are full strokes. So we just want them to always sort of default to full strokes, and then later on we'll get a greater mastery of the downs and ups and buzz rolls and those sorts of things. So we'll get to that as we move along. So lesson 3, counting out loud, quarter note, half note, whole notes. Not a big deal. I'm sure you guys will do really, really well, and I'm sure the kids will have a lot of fun. Okay? If you have any questions, just contact us and let us know. Have fun. To purchase your copy of Developing the Percussionist Musician, click on the link in the description below, or visit the Developing the Percussionist Musician Facebook page and click Shop Now.